The chamber of the Galactic Council was carved from the heart of a dying moon, an ancient relic orbiting a gas giant the size of 10 Earths. Within its grand hall, hundreds of species gathered, scaled, feathered, metallic, and luminous, each whispering through translators as the final verdict was announced. At the center stood the delegation from Earth, 5 representatives dressed in plain black uniforms, their faces calm yet resolute. The High Arbiter's voice echoed across the chamber. By decree of the Council, the species known as humanity is hereby banished from the galactic network. No trade, no travel, no communication. You are to return to your cradle world and remain there for eternity. 1,000 murmurs filled the hall, a storm of satisfaction from those who had grown tired of Earth's defiance. Humanity had resisted countless demands, refused tribute, ignored threats, questioned laws written by beings who had ruled the stars for millennia. They had dared to say no. The lead human simply nodded, understood there was no plea, no anger, only a calm acceptance that unsettled the chamber more than any defiance could have. As the humans departed, the High Arbiter turned to his aides. They will learn humility now. Isolation will break them. But across the void, deep within the cradle of Sol, humanity did not break. It transformed. The first years after exile were filled with fury. Nations that had once argued over borders and beliefs suddenly united beneath a single purpose: survival. The Council had cut off access to faster-than-light routes, leaving Earth's colonies scattered, vulnerable, and starved of supplies. But humanity had always thrived under pressure. Engineers repurposed derelict stations into forges. Scientists rediscovered ancient theories discarded by the Council long ago. Entire populations volunteered for projects that bordered on madness, building new drives, weapons, and ships that violated every known principle of galactic physics. And at the center of it all was the human will. They remembered being mocked in the Council chambers, told that they were too young, too reckless, too emotional to stand among the stars. They remembered the laughter when humanity proposed their own seat on the Council. Now they worked in silence. The years stretched into decades. Human fleets grew larger, sleeker, darker. Massive shipyards orbited the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, cloaked from sensors, guarded by autonomous defense grids. Mars became the forge world of a new age, and the asteroid belt turned into a network of hidden fortresses. Children were taught history not as tragedy but as fuel. They cast us out, said the teachers, so we learned to build our own stars. A century passed before the first whisper reached the Galactic Council. A patrol fleet belonging to the Verne Dominion had vanished near an uncharted system. When reinforcements arrived, they found only wreckage, ships carved cleanly in half, metal crystallized as if frozen in time. No weapons known to the galaxy could do that. At first, the Council dismissed the reports as pirate activity. But the disappearances spread. Trade convoys vanished. Outposts went dark. Sensor buoys detected strange energy readings, fluctuations unlike anything in recorded science. The Council grew uneasy. Then came the transmission. It was brief, encoded in a format no one had seen in centuries. 3 words, in the human tongue. We are awake. The Council summoned an emergency session. The High Arbiter's voice trembled slightly as he addressed the assembly. It cannot be them. They were confined to their system. Yet across the projection table, a hologram flickered, showing a fleet emerging from a wormhole near the edge of Council space. The ships were black as night, their hulls absorbing all light, their shapes shifting with geometric precision. Energy signatures radiated from them like miniature suns. And at the front, a single insignia glowed faintly on every hull, a stylized human hand, gripping a star. The first contact in over a century began not with words, but with silence. The human fleet did not broadcast demands. It did not fire upon worlds. It simply arrived, scanned the system, and moved on. Entire sectors reported the same phenomenon. Then one day, a human vessel entered the Council's capital system itself. It halted just beyond orbital defenses, its hull gleaming with unfamiliar alloys. A single message followed. We remember. Inside the chamber, chaos erupted. The Arbiter demanded the fleets be mobilized. Generals from a dozen species assured him their combined armadas would erase this threat. But in the darkness between stars, Humanity had become something new. When the first Council fleet engaged them, sensors recorded what witnesses later called the silence event. Every ship that entered the combat zone ceased transmitting after exactly 3 minutes. No debris was found. No survivors. The sector itself became a void. Space bent, light fractured, time distorted. The Council called it impossible, but humanity no longer obeyed the limits of possibility. Hidden deep beneath the surface of Mars, in the vast command citadel known only as the Core, human strategists observed everything. Their leader stood before a display of stars, thousands of systems once ruled by the Council, now trembling under the shadow of the returning species they had cast out. He spoke softly, his voice carrying to every commander across the human network. "We were exiled to protect their order. Now we bring a new one." He turned to the gathered officers. "The galaxy taught us their laws, their pride, their cruelty. But we learned the truth they feared. Creation is not bound by permission." The officers saluted. Humanity's doctrine was simple. Never again would they kneel. As human fleets advanced, something extraordinary happened. The oppressed worlds, species long subjugated by the Council's decrees, rose in rebellion. They had heard rumors of the humans who had defied the galaxy and returned stronger. They whispered that Earth's children carried the fire of freedom itself. Entire colonies switched allegiance overnight. Council loyalists surrendered, begging to join the human-led coalition known as the Ascendant Accord. The Council's unity shattered. Some species pleaded for negotiation. Others attempted desperate counterattacks. But humanity's technology was beyond comprehension. Ships that folded through reality, weapons that turned energy into silence, armor that healed itself in seconds. When questioned how such advancements were possible, one human simply replied, "You banished us to isolation. In isolation, we met the universe itself." No one understood what that meant. Eventually, the Council called for a final confrontation. They gathered the largest armada in history, 10,000 warships from every surviving faction. The humans, by contrast, sent only one fleet. The two forces met near the ruins of an ancient star system, a graveyard of suns long extinguished. The Council commander transmitted a message. "Stand down. You cannot face us all." The human reply came seconds later. "You still believe numbers matter." What followed would later be called the shattering. The Council armada fired first, a storm of plasma, antimatter, and singularity weapons. The void itself glowed white, and then silence. The human fleet moved through the barrage untouched. Their ships emitted no shields, no counterfire, only light pulsing rhythmic like a heartbeat. One by one, Council ships disintegrated. Not exploded, not destroyed, simply ceased to exist. Sensors recorded nothing but ripples of energy spreading through dimensions unknown. The entire battle lasted 8 minutes. When it ended, the humans were alone among the stars. The Galactic Council no longer existed. Its monuments crumbled, its archives burned. But humanity did not claim vengeance. Instead, they built. They restored planets ravaged by centuries of neglect. They shared their technology freely with those who had suffered. They formed new councils, not of domination but of cooperation. And through it all, one truth guided them. Banished once for refusing submission, they had learned that strength was not in conquest but in unity, in the will to rise after being cast down. The universe watched as humanity became something far greater than any empire. They became the architects of balance. Centuries passed, and the legend grew. To most species, humanity became a myth, beings who spoke with the language of creation itself, who had reached the edge of the observable universe and beyond. But within the deepest archives of the Accord, records still told the truth. They had been mortal once, flesh and bone, flawed, defiant. Their banishment had forced them to confront the void, and in that void, they had discovered the secret every civilization eventually sought. The universe was not a cage. It was a mirror, and those who dared to dream within it could reshape reality itself. In the halls of the new stellar assembly, built on the ruins of the old council world, representatives from thousands of civilizations gathered to celebrate the dawn of a new era. At the center stood a monument, a simple column of white stone engraved with the words, "Banished once, we learned to rise. Cast out, we learned to create." Humanity endures. A young delegate from a distant colony approached an elderly human sitting beside the monument. "Is it true," she asked, "that your people were once exiled?" The old man smiled. "Exiled, yes, but that was our beginning, not our end." She looked up at the stars shining through the assembly's glass dome. "And now you lead us all." He shook his head. "No, we lead ourselves." Far beyond the reach of any known civilization, in the silent expanse at the edge of the cosmos, an immense structure drifted larger than any world, radiant with energy drawn from the birth of stars. Within it, humanity continued its journey. Explorers mapped realities beyond the physical. Scientists conversed with the quantum tides of existence. Philosophers studied the weave of time itself. They no longer sought domination nor worship, nor fear. They sought understanding. Because when the council had banished them, they believed they were sending humanity away from civilization. In truth, they had sent them toward enlightenment. And yet, deep within the heart of the human empire, they still remembered the day they stood in that ancient chamber, condemned by those who thought themselves eternal. They remembered the laughter, the arrogance, the blindness, and they remembered the silence that followed when humanity returned. The lesson endured across every world that now bore the mark of the Accord. Strength is not born from conquest, but from the will to rise when all else falls. To be human was to endure the storm, to burn, to rebuild, and to reach higher still. The stars themselves bore witness as humanity spread across the void, not as conquerors but as creators. Their cities shone brighter than suns. Their ships became bridges between galaxies. Their music echoed across nebulae, resonating with the pulse of creation. And in the quiet of space, where once they were alone, the universe whispered back, "Welcome home." For humanity, exile had been the crucible. The void had been their teacher. The stars had been their reward. They were no longer the banished children of Earth. They were its legacy. Eternal, unyielding, bound to no law but their own assent. And though the council that had once condemned them was long forgotten, the story remained, a warning and a promise. Banished by the Galactic Council, humanity rose stronger, and when they claimed the stars, they did not ask for permission. They simply reached out their hands and took them.